Welcome to Reactive Film screening of Wasteland, directed by Lucy Walker. We're here in New York at Soho House, and we're screening this fantastic movie that you're going to love. Reactive Film series is about promoting issue-based documentaries. We want to expose you to an issue, we want you to be engaged in a conversation about that issue, and we want to ultimately inspire you to make a difference in your life. So thank you for coming.
So tell us a little bit how you got started, how come this project came into your lap, and how you met Vic.
I was a fan of Vic's, and I was introduced to Vic through a guy called Peter Martin, who also knew the producer, and we all went to meet Vic. I was a fan in the Baltic Gallery in Newcastle, and he liked my work and I liked his work, and Angus, our wonderful producer, was kind enough to be so excited about both of our work that he just wanted to sort of be around in case we felt like collaborating. And what was really good was that Vic and I just had this very organic conversation like I have a million times a day. And it's sort of, in hindsight, it seems like it was all meant to be, and we'd all be sitting here one day, you know, with this amazing magical thing on our hands. But at the time, it was just like any old kind of conjectural sort of glass of wine with an artist you admire who likes your films. And we talked about what, if we were to make a film together, what could that be? And I don't like films about artists or musicians that sort of look at like just sample things, right? That just sort of, I like things where if you're gonna follow one thing, then you can get an arc and a story. And I like movies like Quince Tree's Son, and you sort of that get into the process of art making by actually following one big challenging thing through. And so we talked about that, and then the advantage of that was that we got to watch the whole thing from the beginning. And I had previously been obsessed with garbage since I was at NYU, and quitting smoking, I joined this triathlon club, and there was this fortunately really interesting woman who used to talk a lot when we were on the treadmill at 6 in the morning. And she was so interesting, she taught a seminar in garbage in the graduate seminar. And it was so interesting, I'd never really thought about it. And I started going to the seminar, and I watched these movies. I learned about catadoras. I saw this movie, Ilha das Flores, a Portuguese movie that's short movie. It's the life cycle of a tomato. It's very good. And then I went with her class to the Staten Island landfill, Fresh Kills. This was in just prior to 9/11, because the remains of World Trade Center were taken there and it was closed, right? But this was
Lucy's
in 2000.
been to 2 huge garbage fills.
Exactly.
I don't know who else has been to a garbage fill
Exactly.
in this audience before.
But that was the first light bulb moment, was going to the landfill and thinking, oh my God, everything I've ever thrown away in New York City did not vanish like you sort of imagined it might. It didn't vanish at all. It came to this place, and I'm standing on it, and it's a horrifying, embarrassing idea that everything that I've ever thrown away is actually still hanging around in this landfill.
Right. Well, there's so many messages in this movie. There's the power of art over a small group of individuals. There's recyclable, saving the planet and being conscious of what we're doing to our planet. Moby, what messages do you see coming out of this film?
Well, that's one of the things that's most remarkable about the movie for me, is how effortlessly it deals with about 30 different issues.
It's true.
Because my involvement with this is really weird and tangential. Lucy was living in my apartment while working on this movie and another movie.
Count of Zero. It's half shot in Moby's apartment, actually.
and she came to me and said, "Oh, I'm making a movie about garbage pickers in Brazil. Can I use your music?" And I was like, "Sure," because no one in their right mind is ever going to want to watch a movie about garbage pickers in Brazil. And because we've known each other for about 20 years. Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We've argued about how we met. I think it was on 13th Street on a Sunday night when DJ Spooky was DJing.
It was a long,
But
in the 90s.
then on the subway.
We also met on the subway.
Yeah.
I was reading a book about electronic music.
So I saw it for the first time when it was finished, and I've done music for a lot of different movies in my life, and of all the movies I've worked on, this is the one I'm most proud of.
That's wonderful.
And so I sat in the theater.
Yeah.
And it was just so emotional, and not to sound all creepy and new agey, but it's like heart opening. You know, I saw it a screening up at the MoMA, And it was a bunch of like staid, cynical New Yorkers and Europeans, everyone like with their emotions sort of, they've taken their emotions behind the shed and put them out of their misery a long time ago. And suddenly like the businessman sitting next to me is sobbing. And it was really powerful. But then in the car ride to dinner later, I was talking to this other guy and I was like, wow, we just saw a movie that effortlessly dealt with issues of socioeconomic disparity, the contemporary art world, the human condition, environmental issues. I was like, wow, it's like we've just effortlessly been schooled in 20 different issues and cried during the process.
Yeah.
Does the number of workers stay the same even if it sort of gets bigger?
They're trying to squeeze them off right now because it's closing down. But what they're trying to do is sort of kind of squeeze people off gradually by diverting trucks, by having less staff, and by also working with the association so that they allow less people there. There is some regulation in this landfill because Tiao and Lucio, the manager of the landfill, and Tiao, our hero, the head of the association, are such cool people. They've been collaborating so that there's no kids. People aren't allowed to sleep up in the actual garbage, which some landfills have kids or people sleeping in the garbage and getting run over by the trucks. There's some regulation. There are also those numbered shirts or the orange vests are so that only a certain number of people can go. But they're trying to squeeze people off, so there's a sort of natural sort of squeeze that the people are going to try and find new work, and it's not this sort of catastrophe. And that's what we've been donating all our proceeds from. We've been winning lots of lovely film prizes, and the proceeds from the artwork, some of it went to the people directly involved in the project, and some of it's been going to the association. And one of the big priorities has been skills retraining, because these people's job options are basically prostitution, drug trafficking, robbing, begging, and garbage picking. So you want to try and give people some skills so they have some more safe, nice job options.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about were the challenges in making this film, because sometimes it's very easy to sit here and watch it and it's all come together beautifully, and then it's just done and you go home and you say, wow, that was amazing, but there's the whole other side of it, of what the actual people in the project go through to make it happen. And I think it's interesting, for us to hear what the greatest challenges were while you were making it and maybe now as well.
Yeah, I just address that one for 1 second? Sure. I think it's funny because the movies that Lucy makes, part of her criteria is figuring out how difficult they'll be to make. Because the one before this involved taking blind kids up Mount Everest. And so rather than make a Ken Burns movie about baseball cards, it's like, oh, let's go live in a garbage dump for a few months. Yeah, while making a movie about nuclear weapons and proliferation. So.
Yep. Yeah, I do like a challenge. It's true. But what was really interesting on this movie was I was like Vic at the beginning, I was thinking, oh my God, they're all going to be like murderers, and we had to get kidnap insurance, and I had so many vaccinations, that I couldn't move my arms. I basically got every vaccination known to medical science, and Vic wanted to go there, who was I to not? And then I went on the same journey that you see Vic go on, sort of, wow. These aren't the sort of garbage monster, zombie, drug addict, scary people that I was afraid of. These are actually the coolest people I've ever met, who have, more dignity than I do, and more courage in the face of adversity, and also more like check out those women's, style. My goodness, they should have like Gramacho, fashion. I just was so struck, and Volta just, blew my mind, and Tiao and all of them, given what they've, I went to Oxford for undergrad and I know lots of very, very clever people, but I don't know how many people read Machiavelli when they were making their clever comments about it, let alone made like outrageously extensive, unique, brilliantly incisive comparisons between 16th century Florence and 21st century Rio. Those are really good comparisons.
And I don't think you know too many people who get their books from a landfill.
Exactly. Yeah. Isn't that great? And then he says, and imagine people throwing away books, and you think, have you ever thrown away a book? And one that's still on sale,
A couple more questions?
I was going to ask Moby if he composed any new music for the film, or if it's all kind of
Nope.
old.
Lucy didn't, she just came to me and said, oh, I'm, as I said, working on a movie about garbage pickers in Brazil. Can I use your music? And she said, it's a very low budget movie, so we can't pay you anything. And I just said, yes. Yeah, like without a moment's hesitation, because we've been friends forever. And also, I mean, not to be sycophantic, but everything Lucy does is remarkable. I mean, every movie she's made has been really like cohesive and effortlessly beautiful. So I was just, it's sort of like the idea of committing to a project without having any idea what the project actually is. And then there's that remarkable moment when I sit down in the theater with everyone else, I'm like, I don't know what I'm about to see. I don't know how my music is, I don't know what music's being used. So, you know, it's like being an amnesiac composer. And also, like, I feel like a fraud sitting here talking about my role in the movie, because my role in the movie is non-existent. But
it's huge. How important is the music for the emotional and the beautiful and the everything? Thank you. Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll have music in a movie. Like literally, I had a song in this movie, The Saint, which no one saw. And I have a song that plays for 3 seconds in a cafe when a car drives by. So unless you're actually with me watching the movie, you'd never know that my music was in the movie. And in this, like, the movie was used so, like, it just reinforced the picture so well, and it was so prominent, and I was just, as I said, I've never been happier to have my music used in a film than this one.
One more question, and we'll wrap it up, or, yeah?
Lucy, when you talked about when you met Dick and agreed to collaborate, was this already like kind of on his radar that this was the thing he was going to do, or what was the sort of gestation period?
No, he'd already done amazing. I mean, it was a true collaboration. I mean, he'd already done these amazing Pictures of Junk series, and he'd already done amazing social projects with these kids that you like the Sugar Children and some other kids, and amazing educational projects. He's brilliant, you know, with kids and social projects. He'd done a project with some street kids in Sao Paulo, and so sort of it was sort of I guess you know, it was all kind of inspired by him and stuff that he was doing already. But the idea of going here was not, he wasn't sure what he was doing next. He was looking for his next project, and the conversations, I think, around what we were going to do next, you know. So it's so hard to pick apart in retrospect.
Filming the process. You talked about that.
We talked about if we were to make a movie, we should do one big project, and then what would that big project be? And then I love the idea of doing a social project. You've seen Blindsight because you wrote about it beautifully. But and if you think about Blindsight, this is exactly the same structure. And Vic had watched Blindsight and loved it. And that idea of the privileged, amazingly successful guy, Eric Weimer, Vic Muniz, who shares a bunch being blind, you know, being poor from Brazil, with the, you know, less privileged Catadoras blind teenage students in Tibet. And then they go on an incredibly, you know, life-changing, all-out challenging adventure, climbing Everest, doing this project together. And through that journey, which is a beginning, middle, and end, you get to know these amazing people, and also reflect on, you know, what does that tell you about life and how it works, and just go to this amazing faraway place, meet these people, and go on a journey together, which has a beginning, middle, and end that you can sell in 90 minutes of emotion. That's you know, and editing this thing we did really fast, and I think it was because it was exactly that. It's actually, it's remarkably similar as a movie. It is the funny mechanics of the filmmaking in a funny way.
I want to thank Lucy so much for coming. She is actually in between two planes. She came in and is leaving tomorrow, so I really want to thank Lucy, and also for bringing in Moby, her dear friend, and for you know, making the music behind this beautiful documentary. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.